What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. If you guys remember The Bachelor, that TV series where you had a brother who himself, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Matt James, is black and white. He ended up with this controversial girlfriend by the name of either it's Rachel Kirkconnell or Raquel. I don't know how she pronounces it, but if you guys remember at that particular time, the situation was some things in her past came up that were, as many of us can consider, distasteful. She had liked some Confederate flag related content and a plantation theme fraternity formal in 2018. And she apologized for her past actions for calling them racist. Now that Matt, he acted like he, had an issue with it, but he eventually forgave her. And they're now still together. Okay, they're a nice couple and all of that. But I kind of want to give context to the whole situation insofar as to say this. This is not much different from what we're seeing with the Jace Pearly thing situation and a lot of black men. A lot of black men really only care about, and this is the problem that we have that's systemic in the black society. Number one, we don't see any real value in black people at all. We look at black people as, for the most part, enemies of the state. Okay? And a lot of times when you see black people agreeing with things that, white people do, we look at them and say, well, I've lived around these brothers and sisters in my life, so I can see the point. Like, don't apologize. Like, because these dudes broke into my house. They don't do nothing for me. What can they do for me? They don't give me anything. I don't see no value in it. So if it's, hey, I ain't got no problem with what they're saying. And on the outside looking in, it sounds like, hey, they may actually have a point. Like, hey, well, they make mistakes. We make mistakes. Our own black people make mistakes. But then what happens is, and I think that what happened with this guy, people just don't respect you, okay? They don't. And then when you look at the black community, why Black America has less now than before. Black people own less now than before. We owned more homes. We owned, in the 60s, more businesses. We owned more economies. And then when you have those businesses, even if they're not the best, over time, you're going to get better. So we had students in the 50s and the 60s before financial aid. My aunt went to Grambling in the early 60s. When she came out of Grambling, with a black mind, a mind to do very well in the African-American community, very elegant lady still to this day, lives out in Bixby Knolls in Los Angeles. But again, she's very intelligent, right? And she does business with a black mind, solving her problems. What I see now is a lot of black folks in general have what I would consider an integrationist mindset, which is, I'm not going to criticize it because I'm from California, one of the most integrated states, Sacramento, one of the most integrated cities. But I noticed that the Ukrainians have credit unions in communities where they're less of, and they're giving each other money and loaning each other money, and the blacks don't have those things, even though we outnumber them. And the one thing that I can remember is that if you have communities that do for themselves and they respect themselves, they actually get more out of the society they're in. That's why Indians have great communities in America, or the Chinese, or even Dominicans. They have a lot of respect for themselves. But when you see the caping that I see a lot of brothers or sisters doing for other groups, it's obvious that people just don't respect you. And the downside of that is you don't have anything. That's the downside of that. Like, what I mean as a community is this. If, for example, the Black Manosphere, let's talk about that. In the heights of the Black Manosphere, a resource like Kevin Samuels was greater than a resource, I don't know, in the corporate world. Because now Brother Gabe, he could put me on to things that I had no idea of. Dr. D, guys like that, Andre Hatchett. These are people that have pretty much community-minded solutions, right? And I got opportunities from certain guys that I would have never gotten because we had somewhat of the same agenda thinking with a black mind. I was able to get more, okay? And I will always love the Black Manosphere for those sort of opportunities because it was thinking about black things first and primarily at the height of it, I would say. And that the height would have been the Kevin Samuels thing. But now outside of that, when you take away your ability to collaborate with your people because you forgive other groups who dish your culture, there's no way you can have that same solution-minded things that will bring money to your economy, that will, clean up the crime where you live or to do work in the diaspora. You just can't get it. So, and that mindset eventually trickles down to you not having anything. Your community's not having anything because it serves no purpose. But the people that you're trying to deal with don't think like that. There's no way that white people can run the world and think the same way that blacks think. There is no way that Asians can have success in the Middle East. And I'm talking about Arabs and they have and they think like us. Nobody thinks like us as a group that is very successful on average, in my honest opinion. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's what the numbers would show. The mentality of you can offend me, you can talk about my group, and you can do things against my people, and I could even tell you to apologize. That somehow equals wealth, or that equals things for me, and that makes me different. Nobody takes that serious at all. Nobody can take that serious. Nobody will take that serious. And when you look at this guy, and she will do that, he will accept that. What do her people even think of the guy? Like, okay, you did this in the past because if, let's say, for example, it was the opposite way around. He got caught making fun of her particular group. God forbid if it was the untouchable community. What would they say? And that particular group is the best at building communities, I would say, businesses, infrastructures, things like that. There's nobody that even comes close besides certain Asian groups, even the whites. But if you don't have any respect for your people, you can't achieve anything. And that's why I try to tell you guys get mad at me. When you don't even have respect for the blacks, how can you develop? And sometimes I feel like, man, a lot of black people, y'all might not like this, but man, if we just can be on an island where we could just figure this stuff out, it'd be rough, but it might work out, man, because as long as black people don't see any value in each other, depend on each other for anything, it's never going to work out. And we always going to have situations like this guy doing anything for a white girlfriend. And I can get it, like, could have been called names, but hey, and I understand, but I'm talking about in situations where there is a white woman who has been disrespectful towards blacks. I'm not really talking about the white ones that just, you end up with a white wife or whatever, and there's no real evidence. I can't argue that, but this, I can argue. Guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Drunk. Appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe to the bell. We're out.